Hi everyone, this is Rayon Paper. Today we will be continuing the ink swatching series with another selection of blue fountain pen inks. Most of these inks are what I would call true blues. Some are more in that realm of royal blue, while others are lighter and a bit softer. We have a bit of sheen, a sprinkle of shimmer, and even two scented inks. As always, I'll be using a glass of water, my Pilot Iroshizuku dip pen in fine, my makeshift sample vial holder, and an old towel. I'll be swatching on 52 GSM Tomoe River paper, and with all of that said, let's get swatching. The first ink is the Atramentis Hyacinth. With Hyacinth, we start with an ink property that isn't all too common, namely scent. While scented inks can be a bit polarizing, I personally enjoy them as long as they are well behaved, and I found that the Atramentis does scented inks really well. And Hyacinth is a joy to write with. The ink has a saturated royal blue color with plenty of red sheen, and the scent is floral and fresh, but not too overbearing. And then we have Diamine Royal Blue. If you enjoy a royal blue but you'd rather not use a scented ink, Diamine Royal Blue is the perfect ink. It's an affordable, well-behaved ink with a vibrant royal blue color. The ink has a bit of red sheen, but not as much as the Atramentis Hyacinth. And if you wish Diamine Royal Blue was just a bit more purple-leaning, consider trying Diamine Majestic Blue instead, which is just that. Our third ink is Vinta Overcast Blue, also known as Badya 1865. I have to admit that Vinta Overcast Blue kind of sneaked its way into this collection, as it's actually somewhere between a true blue and more of a turquoisey teal color. But it's one of my favorite blue inks though, and it has a gorgeous gold shimmer, quite a lot of it as well. And the name Badya 1865 is a reference to the year the Manila Observatory was founded. And then we have Diamine Starlit Sea. Starlit Sea is an ink from Diamine's Shimmertastic line. It's a blue, somewhere between a medium and a dark blue, with a silver shimmer. And compared to Vinta Overcast Blue, the shimmer in Starlit Sea is a bit more subdued, less bright. It's one of those inks where the name and the ink color match very well, and I love the imagery of a starlit sea. In addition to the silver shimmer, the ink also displays a bit of red sheen, but you won't really see that in writing. Next up is Diamine Misty Blue. It turns out I have a lot of blue Diamine inks, but they are all different enough. A Misty Blue is a bit lighter than Starlit Sea, and it's less saturated than, for example, Diamine Royal Blue. In broader nibs, the ink has some shading, but I personally would have liked the shading to be a bit more prominent. Ink number 6 is Diamine Early Dusk. Early Dusk was first introduced in last year's Purple Ink Vent calendar, and those inks are now also available separately. When I opened the little calendar door and saw blue standard ink, I was honestly a little disappointed. That's going to be a boring one, I thought, but I was so wrong, as this color is really quite a unique one in my collection. It's a medium blue, but with a very subtle purple undertone. I think Diamine absolutely nailed it with mixing an ink that looks exactly like the sky at dusk. Ink number 7 is yet another Diamine ink, namely Florida Blue. This is what I would call a summer blue. It's a very vibrant medium blue, one that makes me think of the inflatable swimming pool we had at my parents' house when I was a kid. It doesn't have much shading, but with this particular color, I kind of enjoy that. However, I can see why some would think this is a relatively boring ink. And then we have the Atramentis Forget-Me-Not, which is another scented ink. Now I know the Atramentis also makes a lot of pretty non-scented inks, but like I said before, I enjoy these scented inks a lot. This one in particular has such a gorgeous vibrant blue color and a lovely floral scent. I don't really know if it actually smells like Forget-Me-Nots. We do have some in our garden, but they're still tiny and have like 2 flowers this year. The ink is well behaved, and it even shows a little bit of shading. Next up is Pilot Kon-peki. Kon-peki, meaning bright blue, like a clear sky on a sunny day, is part of Pilot's Iroshizuku line of inks. And when I first got into fountain pen inks, I quickly learned that this is a very popular ink. And now that I've finally tried it, I can see why. It's super well behaved. It is saturated, vibrant, and just not too complicated, I guess. You know, with some inks you need to get an appreciation for the subtleties in their color. It kind of needs to grow on you. Or is that just me? Anyway, I'm starting to feel like you can't really go wrong with Iroshizuku inks. They're all pretty amazing. The next ink is Schneider Ice Blue. Ice Blue is part of Schneider's Pastell line, which consists of, you guessed it, very light inks. I like this one in particular because it has quite a unique color, at least in my collection. The only downside is that it's a rather dry ink, like many lighter inks. Lighter blues often have something interesting going on, such as shading or even chroma shading, but if you're looking for a light pastel blue that has a more uniform, even appearance, this might be the one. Then we have our last Diamine ink for now, which is the Cold Pens exclusive A Dip in the Pool. Part of the set of summer inks Diamine developed with Cold Pens, this ink leans more towards a light turquoise, which is particularly apparent when swatched below Kon-peki and Ice Blue. It's a pretty color, but I find it a little too light and definitely too dry for most writing situations. Ink number 12 is Robert Oster Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet is a chroma shading ink, and the base color is blue, quite unsaturated and pale, which shades to a soft pink. I like the name of this ink and how it alludes to the 2 colors of the ink. While the chroma shading is a pretty cool characteristic, you really need a broader nib for it to really show with this ink. It's also worth noting that this is yet another dry ink. And we have 2 more inks on the next page, with the first one being Sailor Haha. Haha, meaning mother, is part of the Manyo line of inks. Haha is one of the most popular chroma shading inks, I think, and for good reason. While its dryness can make it a bit challenging to write with, it shades really well. And unlike Robert Oster, Romeo and Juliet, Sailor Haha has no trouble showing some of the pink shading even in a fine nib, giving your writing an almost dreamy look. The last ink for today is Ferris Wheel Press Dusk in Bloom. Dusk in Bloom is a very light ink, pale and unsaturated. The ink is a little too unsaturated for my taste. In a broader nib, it has some cool shading. In terms of the hue, it's a fairly neutral pale blue, leaning neither towards green nor purple. Like many of the lighter Ferris Wheel Press inks, it's on the drier side. And that's it, another 14 blue inks. From these inks, Diamine Florida Blue is probably my favorite. I also enjoy the Atramentis Hyacinth a lot, but mostly for its lovely scent. And I'm a sucker for that blue and gold combo of Vinta Overcast Blue. Enjoy this little recording of the page now that all the inks have dried completely and you can really see the shading, the sheen and the shimmer. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I would love to hear what your favorite blue ink is. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss the rest of the series, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye!